Hi friends, today we are going to learn about the overloaded constructor or the constructor overloading. Okay, what is the definition? A constructor is said to be overloaded if and only if the constructor name is same, but the signature is different. Constructor name is same, but the signature is different. And what is the signature means? Okay, let's see. Signature represents the following parts: number of parameters, type of parameters, and order of parameters. Okay, number of parameters and the type of parameters and the order of parameters. It is the same as the method overloading. What is a method overloading means? A method is said to be overloaded if the method is having the same name but difference in the number of parameters or the type of parameters or the order of parameters. Okay, in the same way, here uh, we are having the constructor overloading, which is the same as the method overloading, but we will be seeing this with respect to means by using say small program. Uh, I am using Eclipse as an editor over here. Okay, I have created a project uh, and I have created a package or the module. In that, I will be creating a class. Right click, new. Right click on the module, new class. I will be giving some name, some class 1. Okay, and I want the main method in my class, so I'm clicking here, public static void main with some string arguments, or not string arguments, array of string. Okay, so I got the class over here. Now I will be creating two variables of int type. How will be creating? Let it be a and b of which type? Int type, integer. Int type, and I wanted to make these variables as non-static, so I am not using the keyword static, so they will be treated as non-static and public. I wanted to use these variables in my entire project, so I'm writing public over here. Okay, now I will be creating another variable c of string type, and which is also non-static and public. Okay, now what I wanted to do is I wanted to initialize these integers a and b during the runtime while object creation. Okay, so how I will be creating an object, because I can't access these variables directly because they are non-static variables, so I have to create an object. For that, what I have to do is I have to create an object. Okay, how to create an object? If I am saying new keyword means a memory space will be allocated, and here I am using a constructor uh, class 1. Okay, if I am using, this is the default constructor. If I am using the default constructor, what will happen? Uh, it will be initialized with the default values. What are the default values of a and b? A and b default values are zeros, and for string it is null. So if I am using a default constructor, what will happen? It will be initialized with the default values, and I am saving the address of this memory location in some variable that will be an object of class type. So what is the class name? CLASSONE1. This is how you have to define an object. Okay. Object is also called as class variable because the data type here is class. Okay. Next thing means this is a constructor I have created it where if I run this program, the object has been created and the values and means and it will be what it will be doing is it will be storing A, B, and C in some memory location, and we can access those variables with an object obj1.a, obj1.b, obj1.c like that, and actually these values and it will be initializing the values of these variables with the default values. Okay, so A will be having 0, B will be having 0, and C will be having 0. This is the uh, this is object creation using default constructor, or you have to say the system defined default constructor. Okay, and next one I am creating another object. This is what system defined. Okay, and I am creating another object class1 obj2 is equal to new class 1. But here at the runtime, what I wanted to do is I wanted to give some values to A and B. I don't want the default values for this object 2 class or obj2 class. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to give some values. Let it be 10 and 20. I wanted to give it. Well, I wanted to pass as a parameters. So I am passing 10 and 20. Okay. I'm sorry. So here I am passing 10 and 20, but here it is showing an error message that okay, you have passed an parameters over here. You are passing the values 10 and 20, but you have not defined this constructor. Okay, so we have to define this constructor, which will be taking the integers as the parameters. So I have to define this constructor. Constructor name should be the same as the class name. So CLSS 1, and it has to take the integer as the parameters. So int some x, or sorry, int x, int y. Okay. So this is the constructor or the parameterized constructor. Now see, it is showing the error message. Once if you have defined what you call the parameterized constructor, even though you have taken a default constructor over here or system defined default constructor over here, but it will not go to the system defined default constructor. We have to create our own constructor. Once if you have created any parameterized constructor or any constructor of your own, then the system will not go to the system defined parameterized constructor. So we have to define our own constructor with no parameters. So first I will define this. Means I have taken parameterized constructor with two parameters. Constructor with two parameters. Uh, so 10 will be stored in x and 20 will be stored in y. These values I wanted to store in a. So a is equal to x, b is equal to y. Okay, now this part is over. Now what about this part? Okay, it is showing the error message. So what I have to do is I have to define my own constructor, another constructor with no parameters. So class 1 with no parameters. Okay, so no need of initializing the values. So now the error has been gone. So this is programmer defined or user defined parameterized constructor, or uh, parameterized constructor with two parameters, or parameterized constructor. Okay, what then? Okay, so here there are two constructors, one with no parameters and another with two parameters. So this is what is constructor overloading, or these constructors are being overloaded, or these are called the overloaded constructors, because what the definition of the constructor or constructor overloading says that a constructor is said to be overloaded if and only if the constructor name is same but there is a difference, or but there is a difference in the signature or signature difference. What is the signature over here? Number of parameters should be same, or type of parameters, or order of parameters. Here if you can see, the number of parameters are different, so these two are this is overloaded constructors. Okay, and I will be taking another constructor, sorry, class obj3 is equal to new class 1. Here uh, what I will be doing is I will be taking one integer and one string value, so I will be passing some 20 and Mohan. Okay, here means I will be initializing the value of A and C but not B, then B will be only 0. So what here it is showing the error message that okay, you have promised for the constructor, where is the constructor? So I have to define the constructor with two parameters, one is integer type and another is string type. So here, but here here see, this is also a constructor with two parameters. This is also a constructor with two parameters, having the two parameters, but here the type of parameters are different. Here it is integer and integer, here it is integer and string. So here these three are overloaded constructors because there is a difference in the type of parameter, or number of parameter, or order of parameters. So here if I consider these first two constructors, here the number of parameters are different, but if you consider these second one and third one, here the number of parameters are same, both are 2, but the type of parameters are different. So I have to here, this is also parameterized constructor, there is a difference in it. This is also parameterized constructor. Okay, so I have to create another constructor with the parameters as integers and string. So I am creating another parameter, another constructor, class 1 of int some x string, sorry, string z. So a is equal to some x and c is equal to z. Okay, so this is about, here we have seen that these two constructors uh, having the difference in the number of parameters, and if you consider these two constructors, those are having the difference in the type of parameters. And what about the order? Suppose I am creating another constructor, class 1 obj4 is equal to new class 1. Here I will be taking Krishna string, and I will be passing some integer over here, some 30 value. So if I see these two constructors, okay, here it is showing the error message. Why? Because here these two, if I say the three object 3 and object 4, here there are two constructors. Here the number of parameters are same. These are two parameters and it is also having two parameters. And the type of parameters are also same. It is taking integer and string, and it is also taking integer and string. But the order is different. Here it is taking integer first and then string. Here it is taking string first and then integer. So this is also, then I have to define another constructor of this order. Okay, this constructor will not be called, even though this is having the two parameters with integer and string as a parameters, but the order should be different. Here the order is different. So first it should be string. So I will declare another constructors class 1. First it has to take the string. So string some z int some x. Okay, some a is equal to some x, or some b is equal to x, whatever it is, and c is equal to z. Okay, so see, these all are constructors or the overloaded constructors. Here how you can say the overloaded constructor, because they are having the same class name but difference in the number of parameters or type of parameters or order of parameters. So this is what is constructor overloading. We have to remember that if at all if you are defining a constructor or a parameterized constructor or user defined constructor of your own, then the default constructor is not being called. You have to create our own default constructor. Here means you should not say it as a default constructor. It is a constructor or a user defined constructor with no parameters. Okay, if you say the default constructor, it is only the system defined default constructor, or the constructor which is called when the object is being created automatically. Means no need of creating the constructor. But here this is an a user defined constructor with no parameters, and here the constructor with parameters with two parameters, and this is also a constructor with two parameters. But if you compare these two constructors, there is a difference in the type of parameters. And if you consider these two constructors, there is a different, they are having the same number of parameters and same type of parameters, but the order is different. So a constructor or constructor overloading or overloaded constructors are those whose has the difference, whose has the same name but difference in the type of parameter or uh, what you call the number of parameters or the order of parameters. There should be some sort of difference in it. Okay, so hope you understood the class. Okay, thank you for now.